One of my nieces is 27. She's a Marine. She just passed her nursing exam and is officially an RN. She's sharp. And after 2 hours in a room full of women real estate investors, she leaned over to me and said, "How do you guys know more about AI than I do?" And I said, "Because we're intentional." And that was it. That was the whole weekend. Welcome to Real Talk with Katie Kim. I want to talk about something that happened at InvestHER CON in Phoenix this past week that I was not expecting. This year, I invited two of my three nieces, not to show them what I've built, not to recruit them to anything. I brought them because they were hungry, and they have been hungry for a while, for some real estate knowledge to get into the real estate investing game. And I knew this room would feed them something that I couldn't hand to them. Before we even landed, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to tell them about my role in that community. I wasn't going to front load it with anything. I wanted them to see it first, to feel it first. What I did do is I did prepare them for the women in my inner circle that they were going to meet, my accountability group, my pod. And so I had sent them prior podcast recordings of these ladies as they've been on Real Talk with Katie Kim to share their stories and give a little bit of background of who they are, what they do. So they didn't walk into the room with people who are near and dear to me cold. So I did give them that on the drive. And what unfolded over that weekend, that's what I want to talk with you about today. Because a lot of women listening right now have a resource hiding in plain sight in their daily lives. Not a paid mentor, not a mastermind, not someone behind a course, someone in their family, their friend group, their network, their circle, and they've never asked. Let's talk about it. Okay. So my nieces are in their 20s. They have both bought their own home and they started to get into the bug of real estate investing. But as you know, there are lots of options. There's lots of ways to go into it. There's lots of asset classes. And so they started to get the paralysis by analysis. One niece and her husband, my nephew, had started asking me questions, not deep questions, not like bother me all the time questions, but like the questions almost after they did actions, like, oh crap, we should have asked Aunt Katie about this questions. And so I wanted to give them, I wanted to feed them. I wanted to show them opportunity and show them a community that it's safe to ask questions, it's safe to dig in, it's safe to learn more. And so I was blessed to be able to speak on the stage this year at InvestHER CON on a panel with the pivot that paid off. And with that, I was blessed with some discounted options for tickets. So I offered them to them and they said yes and came. So I was so blessed to have them. That is why they were there in that room. They showed me a little bit of hunger. They showed me that they wanted to work for that knowledge. They showed me that they wanted to find a different way. Now, sure, could I have sat there and said, okay, you need to do this, like I do with my students, like I do with my consultant clients, like I do with, and actually, I don't even do that. I seek to understand and I guide and we figure out a platform that works, right? So I don't even do that. I don't even know why we went there. So, but I want to say that because that is what a lot of people feel that like learning this game is like seeing somebody else's path and doing it exactly how they did it. That's not always going to work for you, right? And that's where I feel that giving these ladies, my nieces, where my path has been, one, they've never asked. Two, it's different for everybody. Right. So I laugh when people, if I said this once, I said it a million times this weekend. I'm like, oh yeah, I love how people call it burr. We call it family bonding, right? Like that's what I did every Saturday and Sunday growing up. Or, everybody puts a fancy new name on it. And when you slow down to speed up and you start to really take a look at your time, talent, and treasure triangle and your risk tolerance and your goals, the methodology or the way you're going to go about something or go about growth or go about investing starts to become more clear. That's why I have the tool for the buy box. That's why I have the assessment, because first and foremost, you have to figure out what you want and where you want to go. And that was a question that when my nieces were asking me, what can we prepare for this weekend or this week? What can we, how can we best prepare for it, right? They're good students. They're both Marines. They're both like, how do we go into battle, right? How do we assess the situation? And so I said, figure out what you want. I said, figure out where you want to go. Figure out where you want to take this. What do you want out of life, right? And it was a pretty open question, right? I mean, it's one that we're all probably even trying to seek later on in our life. But that's what I wanted them to come with curiosity, come with questions, right? There's not a check the box type of response to this. It will change with how you change in your life. It will change with your needs. It'll change with your wants. And those of you who are listening, you're like, oh, preach, Katie, right? Like there's so many times I've pivoted, I've changed directions, I've expanded things. I thought I wanted this and I got into it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. I don't want that, right? So I wanted them to come with that curiosity of seek to understand, seek to explore, seek to find more information. So as I got there, because I was a little worried, let me pref this. I was a little worried that it would become the latching, right? And I know some of you who have brought new people to conferences experiences of, okay, I'm just going to hang out with Katie the whole time and we're going to follow her around. I'm like, that's not happening. That's not happening. That's not my style. That's not happening. So when I got to the hotel, it was amazing. I saw some amazing women. I got to hug Jennifer for the first time in the hotel lobby as I was checking in, who I've worked with, and she's working on a multi-generational pocket neighborhood with tiny houses with green technology focus. And she's doing some amazing things on the East Coast. So stay tuned for that. So that was my welcome, right? So I'm like, I am pumped and jazzed. I go to my room, I'm ironing everything to prep, and I'm like, I meet you at the pool in a little bit, guys. And my girl Mandy comes over and we have a little powwow. And I didn't realize I brought everything linen, which ladies, as you know, you got to iron it and then you put it on and it's like, why did I try? So all those things. And I forgot that my girl, Dr. Rachel, was doing an AI meetup before her AI build-a-thon that afternoon. So I was planning on hitting her build-a-thon and right on target. I kind of got thrown off. I'm like, oh my gosh, ladies, can't meet you by the pool. Gotta go support my girl, Dr. Rachel, in this meetup. And if you don't know what a meetup is, especially with InvestHER CON, they do a lot of meetups where you have certain topics you want to talk with ladies about. Get everybody in the room, start talking about it, start digging a little bit deeper than you're going to get from them on stage, or maybe something you'll have in the hallway. And so I went to go to the AI meetup and I was texting my nieces. I'm like, hey, go in there. Sorry, boom, boom, boom. And then then I got to check in because I still haven't checked in for the conference. So I went to the coffee shop where Dr. Rachel was holding her AI meetup. And I was so excited because I started seeing some ladies I haven't seen in person. I've only taught with them. On Zoom. So it's a little bit of backup. I do teach the new construction and development course for Investors Thrive. And so some of these ladies I've only seen on Zoom. So this is our chance to connect in person. And there is something so magical that happens when you meet somebody in person, that you know their heart, you know their intention, you know their focus, and you actually get to like give them that hug, right? And just affirm and encourage. There's nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like it. Okay. So it's talking in this group in the meetup, and these ladies were asking questions like, I'm a real estate agent. How do I do more with social media? How do I talk in this? How do I intention? How do I, automate some of my work? How do I get this heavy lift off my plate? I'm overwhelmed. And, hearing more of these stories, we were able to share some of the things that we're doing in our businesses and how to leverage AI, leverage automation, still keep our sanity, still keep that personal touch. And it was so amazing to share these ideas back and forth. One of my nieces was able to come about halfway into the conversation, and the other one came towards the end. And the one that came to the to to halfway in, she was like amazed and her eyes wide open. I kept trying to push her in front, I'm like, hey, come on, stand in front. And so she could hear. And then after it was all done, some people were coming up asking questions and just celebrating being in person together. And she leans over and she goes, how do you guys know more about AI than I do? And she was clearly assessing the age of the room, right? And I leaned back over and I said to her, because we're intentional. We're intentional with our time, talent, and treasure. And we want to grow it, right? And we want to leave a legacy. And that's really what every woman at this table is here to learn how to do, and how to craft it in a different way. And I don't mean like being intentional with sitting there with your book I mean being truly intentional, seeking to understand how to do those things. And so we moved from AI meetup over to the registration, and I met some ladies who I had met with last year, and they were telling me about the progress they've made and different things. And I saw one of the ladies go, "Oh my gosh, it must be so amazing to have Aunt Katie like on call, right? And to be able to reach out to her with any questions." And they were all like, "Yeah." And and I'm just like, "Oh, they are going to be in for so much knowledge and so much experience here." So my heart was so full in that. But I noticed that there was a shift after we got done with that, after we checked in, after they were like, they got the 5 stars of people that they should be connecting with and all the different things that they were told and kind of given a little bit of intention, right? And I was like, "Hey, ladies, I'm going to go. I'm going to get ready for the AI, be back there, be in the room, be ready. This is going to fill up. It's going to be prepared." And so, what I loved is on the way back to getting ready, the questions they started asking, "Okay, what should we do? What should we ask?" I'm like, "Ask what you want. Ask your attention. All these ladies here are going to share with you any of their experience. You just have to ask." I said, I bet you're not going to find one person who's not. And so we went to the AI session and it blew her mind. My other niece went into another session about how to raise funds for investment. And then I had a special dinner that night that I was lucky to be invited to for my one of my girls, Dina. And I realized that Melissa Carta was having a happy hour there. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I would love to invite my nieces to this to make sure that they can network with people." And her question was, "Love to have them, get them in this room. What are they looking for?" I'm like, "Don't know yet. They live in California. They're looking to invest." She's like, "I got it." So they came over to the happy hour and they were immediately, Melissa started connecting them, networking. She's an amazing person. And her heart is to connect people to do more deals because she not only helps fund them, but she helps them understand the process and seek through. And so I knew she was a great person and they're going to be in great hands. So as I look over from the dining room where we're having the dinner and I see my nieces engage in conversations and ask questions and are talking and laughing, my heart is so full. My heart is so full. And as I sat there and was in that moment with them, one of the ladies was telling me like, "Yeah, I'm going to retire and it was like 7 years." And I'm like, "Why 7 years?" And so we started to go through the math. And any of you who've sat at those conversations with me started to ask like, why do you want to retire? What's it going to do? What's your life? What's your number? Right? I love when ladies can throw a number on the table. And so we were talking about that, and all of a sudden we started doing the math. She's like, "Well, I entered this group so I can find a network of women who could help me do this." And I was like, "Okay." What she didn't know is the woman who could help her do this was sitting right next to me. And so I turned to her and says, "Hey, Dr. Rachel, I have a question. If somebody wants to make this much money, off of short-term rentals, how long would it take?" And she's like, "Okay, well, you need to be investing this much with the systems and everything I have in short-term gems. Some of my clients are doing this. And Rachel's a master at what she does. So she's telling real client experiences, real people, real numbers. And I said, "So if I want to hit this metric and I have this much to invest," which that lady had already told me, I'm like, "How long would it take?" She's like, 5 years. And I'm like, "Okay, so you think you want to retire in 5 years?" She goes, "I would love it." I'm like, "Great, let's do this. You guys need to connect." And so it was awesome to see like those are the types of relationships and the conversations that happen in those rooms. And so the reason I didn't tell them, my nieces, what I do is because I want them to stay curious. I want them to ask the questions. I'm always going to be here after this conference, but to have another network of ladies in that room to help them, to be a resource for them. Carol, who is in my Strive Investor Pod this last session, was going to bring her younger daughter and son, and ended up not coming, but they actually live in the same area as my nieces, so I made sure they connected. And Carol was a great resource for her, not only for the conference, but I know they're going to catch up. I know they're going to be intentional and touch base, and they may feel more comfortable asking Carol a question than they feel asking me. And that's what building your network and, in essence, your net worth is all about. It's all about having those people that you can reach out to for a question you feel comfortable with, and you know that they know what they're doing. And now, was there shiny object syndrome? Yes. Were there things like, "Oh, I don't think I should focus on this. I think I should focus on that." Why? Are you intentional about that? Do you want that? Well, no, but there's this opportunity. Okay, come back over here. We're not gonna go for this deal. We're not gonna go for this shiny object, because if your goal is long-term rentals, doing short-term rentals or doing a trailer park or doing commercial building is a shiny object. Lean in and go deep. with long-term rentals. Lean in and go deep with learning, with repping, with viewing deals, finding those resources of people who are doing it bigger, better, stronger, and start to just ask the questions. How did they get started? How did they buy their first building? How did they find the money? There's no pride, especially in this room, there's no pride of authorship. These women are happy to share because also in sharing, we learn, we go back to the basics. And that was one thing. A couple of sessions in, we get back to the big ballroom, and Andres and Liz are up on stage, and they said, like, "Hey, how's the morning sessions going? What have you learned? What do you hear? What's one ask that you want to you have and in the community?" And so I stood up and I said, I invited my two nieces here. They're learning. I'm so excited. Thank you, ladies, for answering their questions, and I really greatly appreciate it. Now, what I didn't know, and I went into a couple more things, what I didn't know is then they were going to call them and have them introduce themselves. What that did for them is they got up in the room, they stood up and they said who they are, where they're from, what they're looking to learn. Now that whole room knew who they are, where they're from, and what they're looking to learn. And they were able to be resources. And what I found from that shift of putting themselves out there, and I didn't intentionally do that. I did it more, to show them how proud I was of them and that they were there, that they were in the room. What that did for them is now these ladies were more open to having those conversations, right? I had tagged my brand with them at that moment. And what I saw is one of my nieces intentional with another woman asking her questions. What did you do? How did you get into this? Another one over here in the hallway seeking if I don't really think I talked to them much later that day until the end, which was great. That's what I wanted. I wanted them to have a network to go to when I wasn't available, or maybe it's a question they just feel more comfortable asking someone else. And that's okay because I trust these women. And at the end of the day, when I met up with my pod and we started talking about what did we learn? What are we going to do? What are we taking away? They got to see and experience that pod, that know, like, and trust. And so one of the things that they were asking is, I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake, is what she said. And I said, that's a great thing. And so I went around the room and I always asked my ladies, my pods, like, can I ask you a question? They're like, oh, absolutely. And we went around and I said, were you scared in your first deal? Terrified. Were you scared? Yes. Were you scared? Erica's like, I'm still freaking scared. Every deal, every deal. Okay. And then one of my pod ladies, Cheryl, was like, here's a better question. Have you lost money in a deal? And we went around and every single woman had lost money. And so keeping it real, showing the scars, the warts, the bumps and bruises allows people to have permission to stumble forward. And that's what I really wanted my nieces to see. I wanted them to see a room full of powerful women who have made it, who are humble, who are open to share and care, and to be able to ask those questions. And so that is a resource that I can't give them through any conversation. You have to be in the room. You have to be intentional with your time, talent, and treasure. And one of the things that I love that our pod does is after these conferences, after these retreats, whether we're together or whether we Zoom up the next week, is we talk about what was our biggest aha? What's our biggest takeaway? And then we hold each other accountable. Because how many times do we go to these conferences? We find out all this fun stuff and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, da, 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 and then we don't hold each other accountable. We went around the room and at dinner, it was, what did you learn? What's your biggest aha? And what are you going to do with it? Right. And how can we hold you accountable? And I have to say, Bridget, if you're listening to this, I love that you joined us for this and you got front and center of being held accountable to start to seek to find. Love it. I love it, love it, love it. Because Bridget's a badass. All the women at these tables are badass, but they're always wanting to level up. Not so much to have more, but they want to level up because they know that they have more inside them. And that's the true compassion and seek that I love to be around with women. Yes, we're strong. Yes, we have businesses that are successful. Yes, we're building strong systems, but God is calling us for more. And we want to give that more impact. And that's what I love about being able to introduce my nieces to this experience. And so here's what I want to leave with you. There's so much more I could talk about in this conference. I probably could do a whole month of podcasts on it. But here's what I want to leave with you. There is someone in your life right now, today, who knows what you need to know. Okay. They've walked the road that you're trying to walk. They've made the mistakes you're about to make. They know the people that could change your trajectory, and you have not asked. You've not asked for the conversation. You've not asked for the experience. Maybe you didn't know what they actually do. Maybe you assumed they were too far ahead to have time for you. Maybe asking felt like admitting you don't have it all figured out. Ask them anyway. Ask them. The most important resources in your life aren't the ones that are behind a paywall. Sometimes they're sitting right across from you at Easter dinner, in a group chat you haven't answered, or on stage at a conference you almost didn't book. I didn't walk into InvestorCon and announce who I was to my nieces. I let them find out. Better yet, I let them find out what they wanted and start their journey. And now they're asking. That's the whole point. So if this episode landed for you, I'm going to ask you to share it with a woman in your life who's been hungry but hasn't asked yet. Let's go. Before we wrap up, if someone in your world needs this conversation, a founder who's carrying a lot and ready for clarity, send this episode to her. These messages land deeper when we share them. And if you're in that space where you know your business can grow, you feel the potential, but the next strategic step isn't fully clear yet, let's talk. You don't need a new identity. You don't need to force a direction. You just need clarity that's aligned with your goals, your numbers, and the life you want to lead. I invite you to book a call with my team. We'll look at where you are, identify the real leverage points, and map the smartest next move, whether that's one of our free resources, a workshop, or deeper support. Clarity creates momentum. Let's get yours. Let's go. The information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not legal advice. It's not financial advice. It's not investment advice. Real estate development, like any investment, carries risk. Before you make decisions, you should always consult a licensed professional, your attorney, your CPA, or your financial advisor, to name a few, to make sure you're making the right choice for your situation. I'm here to share insights and strategy, but you're responsible for your own decisions, and each situation is unique. So make sure you contact your professional team to give you your specific guidance for your specific case, as each real estate development's different and unique and has its own challenges and opportunities.